Hi everyone, I'm Esther Crew. I'm the CEO of Inclusion Live, and you're listening to the Best is Leadership podcast. And this is where we have the conversations that matter for leaders, thinking about organisations and their teams. And we invite brilliant guests to share their unfiltered insights. And today I'm joined by Jo Gretton. She's the CEO of Telent, a UK and Ireland communications and technology infrastructure firm. We'll hear more about it in a minute. It's a really large UK firm with 2,500 people. So, Jo, I understand you've got a fantastic history. You trained as a barrister, you have a degree in law, then you moved into Marconi, and then part of Marconi, when it changed in early 2000s, turned into Telent, and you were appointed CEO in 2020, I think, if that's right.
That is right. Yes, pleasure to be here this morning. I have been really lucky, I think, in my career because I've been able to do lots of different things without having to move organisations. So it's been a great journey. And yes, company I'm very proud to lead. We do a lot of technology for critical national infrastructure in the UK and Ireland. And while we might be a brand that a lot of people have never heard of, on average, we calculate that everybody in the UK touches a Telent provided or supported technology 15 times a day, every single day.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I think I've seen it on when I've been on railway stations and things like that, you see your logo. So I think you're the hidden skeleton that keeps the world moving. Is that right? Is that an interesting way of thinking about it?
Absolutely, yes. We might well have put your fibre connection into your house. We look after your traffic lights, passenger information display, CCTV, communications networks, all sorts around the country.
Yeah, and I'm really fascinated because you're an organisation that's had to grow and rapidly change as technology has advanced as well. But you've got this fantastic team of long-serving people with really high levels of engagement, and I think you're really well regarded on Glassdoor. You're a CEO that's recommended by people on Glassdoor. I think you've got a fantastic approval rating of 93%. So I'll sing your praises because you might not tell everybody about that. But personally, our paths crossed about 3 or 4 years ago. And one thing that really struck me was how you were passionate about blending high performance and leadership with creating a fantastic workplace for people to thrive. So that brings us here to our conversation today. So delighted you've joined us as a guest. And I guess my first question to you to kick off our chat is really why are you so passionate about that? What is it in your makeup and your drive to succeed in terms of performance and leadership and inclusion? What's that about for you?
I think it really comes down to, first of all, the business rationale. So it's maybe quite hard-nosed, but the fact is when people feel better, they perform better. They go the extra mile, they engage with others, we get better collaboration. That leads to continuous improvement in the business, it leads to innovation. Bluntly, we get more productivity from happier people. We get better quality of service for our customers. We are a better business. And for people, including me, who work here, it's a better business because it feels better, because we all are pulling in the same direction. And I think if people go to the other extreme, literally turning up to work for a paycheck only, they clock in, they clock off, they do the bare minimum, and that's entirely logical, isn't it? Because we all want to maximise the reward we get for our efforts. So in that sort of environment, to maximise their reward, they need to minimise their input because their reward isn't changing. They're only working for a paycheck. Mm-hmm. If you're working for a purpose, whether that's, or ideally a combination of, what you're getting personally, what your team are doing, how you're supporting them, how you're a part of it, what you're doing for your manager, because that's the most important engaged relationship, for your organisation. To maximise your rewards, you will maximise your inputs, because the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. Mm-hmm. So For me, it's not, I think some people think about inclusion as fluffy and nice and everything. For me, it's comes absolutely back to business. So you create an environment where everybody's proud to work for the organization. They see the purpose of it. They can see where they fit in. They can see what they personally can get out. Um, and you will absolutely fly, and you will have that high performing organization that benefits everybody, all stakeholders, colleagues in the organization, your customers, your suppliers, your shareholders, or whoever it is that you're delivering value back to. But to really be able to do that, you need everybody involved. And if you feel you're not included, if you feel you're, for whatever reason, not part of the team, you're not one of the in crowd, you're not in, you're not going to be pulling your weight, and the performance overall of the business suffers as a result. So that for me just feels entirely logical, very rational, will deliver benefits for everybody. Yeah. So there's a little bit of me that's like, why isn't everybody doing it?
And what do you think that is? I mean, you've been CEO since 2020, so you've had 5 years in now from a already rich history in the organisation. So when you stepped into that role, what were the challenges you thought, do you know what, we can really make a difference on these to get to that ambition, that purpose that you've just shared?
So when I came in, we had a very good culture, but it wasn't necessarily consistent. So we had a lot of the things that I've been talking about, people who felt that they belonged, felt very engaged, and really did go the extra mile. And I knew that particularly because when I talked to our customers, what was the number one thing they liked about Telent? Our people, that they go the extra mile. So I knew instantly there's a lot of good there, and I've worked here a long time as well, so I had my own perception of exactly what our culture was. But equally, it was that lack of consistency. And what could we do to improve it? For me, it was very much about listening, actually, getting feedback and understanding we're all in this together. What do we all want to make happen? So we did a EDI survey back in 2021, looked at the feedback from that, and what could we do and how would we address what people wanted. So the key themes that came out were people wanted diverse role models, inclusive leadership, and equitable development opportunities. So it was really about saying, right, what are those things that we can effectively change? How will we do it? Communicating what we were intending to do and bringing people with us as well. So making sure that it wasn't just a top-down approach, but that it was at all levels of the organisation. And it was never set out, and as I said, we had fundamentally a good culture. How do you make it a great culture? And taking that and really saying, we're not going to revolutionise this organisation. That was not what we needed. It was just about evolving it. And that's what we've done. Tying that into our, as you said, our engagement scores, and making sure that, I feel like my job would have been done when everybody in Telent was saying, I'm proud to work for Telent. I would recommend Telent as a place to work for my friends and my family.
I love that. I love that. And I think what you're sharing is that you don't have to compromise. You can hold on to the heritage elements that have stood you in good stead. In fact, it's a really powerful journey for yourself to have gone through the organization to CEO and still be able to deep dive into what people really think. And I think that's a credit to you, because some leaders find that hard. That's, almost like that's somebody critiquing their work. But the fact that you were able to do that and listen and think, actually, there's still this opportunity to grow, evolve. Super powerful. And you talk about consistency. How did you go about addressing that? Because that's one of the big challenges, I think, of leadership. We have a model called Quadra Leaders, and consistency is one of the 4 things leaders have to do. So tell us more about that.
Well, consistency starts with yourself. So, as a leader, it's the classic, isn't it? Do you do what you say? Because if you don't, people see it so quickly. If no point in talking about inclusion if fundamentally, say you get into a room and your voice is the only voice that is allowed,
Yeah.
or almost worse, those of your favourites, because that's not consistent. People will absolutely see through that straight away. No, you don't mean it. So set your expectations, make sure and test yourself. Can you live up to those expectations yourself? Call it out if behaviours aren't what you want in your organisation, but more powerfully, praise it when they are what you want.
Yes.
Recognise it, make sure that people get recognition for that. And it becomes quite contagious, I think. And for me, I'm very open, very honest. So I'll ask people to call me out if there are things that I'm not doing or forgetting about, because none of us are perfect. And we can all hold each other to account. So I think there's a consistency in your own behaviour and what you expect, and making sure you can really live up to your challenges. And then the consistency is also then getting under the skin of what's going on in teams. So we focus on the fact that from an engagement and an inclusion perspective, that very much starts at the local level with somebody in their line manager. So where are the pockets in the organisation where perhaps scores aren't as good as they could be, or they're lower than elsewhere? And then one of the things, for example, we've done there is me and my HR director, Jemima, we go to those teams and we talk to the managers, but then we talk to colleagues without the managers. And it's a totally free range conversation, just exploring what it is that they're struggling with, that's not going right, that we could help with. To make that effective, you've got to have employees, colleagues who are confident they can be open and honest with you. And that comes back to consequence. So when they are open and honest, what happens? If the line manager has some element of retribution, say, about it, you're not going to get the open and honest feedback. So there's almost no point in trying that if you haven't sorted that part of the culture out first. And really rewarding feedback. And actually it is about, I think, rewarding feedback. So when people give it to us, we will be clear. Either hear you, recognise why you don't like it, but that is Telent, and or that is this customer, or that is this part of the industry. And if you don't like it, ultimately it might be that individual needs to think about doing something different. It doesn't need to say it has to be outside of Telent, but maybe just something different. Or yes, we understand why that's a problem and we'd love to do something about it, but we can't because of this. Because you can't change everything. So be honest about the things you can't do. Equally, when it's something you can do, make sure the link's made. So because you gave us that feedback, we were able to improve and we have changed. So we call it, and we publicise it, you said, we did. Over the course of the year, thanks to your feedback, we've made changes, we're a better place. And what we find is that then encourages more feedback, because people know giving it gets a result.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. So consistency, listening and acting is what I'm sort of taking out from that. But also you're not doing it to the leaders. You said that, that you've already done the work up front. So tell me more about that piece where you get the leaders on board as well as engaging with their teams. Is there any insights that you could share that somebody could take away and try for themselves?
So I think it's recognising that there are different responsibilities on leaders, but at the same time, they are also your employees and your staff. So
Yeah.
they're wearing that double hat. And it's recognizing that with them. One of the big learnings that we've had is actually sitting down with leaders and with managers. How much time do they have to do that?
Mm.
Quite often in organisations, because we're all racing for more efficiency and better profits, we'll take great people who are great at their jobs and we make them into managers, we make them into leaders.
Yeah.
Do we take any of their day job away from them to allow them to have the time and the headspace to be an effective leader and an effective manager? So we'd set some manager standards, for example, and one of them was we expect everybody to have regular one-to-ones with everybody in their team. How do you do that if what we've also given you is a full-time role to deliver to a customer? Or you're an engineer and we expect, X hours of billable time from you. What gives? Inevitably, it becomes the engagement piece, the one-to-ones, the time out, or you start breaking people because they're working crazy hours to do everything. So that's been one of the very practical things that we've done, is actually say, right, what do we need to do differently to make sure people have got time?
I've worked with other CEOs who are in the same shoes as you, saying productivity, we've got targets, our budgets are based on it. So you've took the hard choices there. How did that pay off for you? At what point did you start to see a return on that hard choice?
Well, I would say that we didn't see that we didn't get a payoff. So what I mean is that, what are we asking managers to do? Form fill? No, it's value add. So they are supporting their team, they are making their team perform better. So perhaps the productivity of the manager is a bit lower because we're setting their availability lower. However, they're improving the productivity of their team. They are getting a better product out of their team, better performance. So actually, when you look at the team metrics, we see better quality.
Tell me about yourself then. How does that work with your leadership, your personal leadership? Perhaps share a little bit of insight of the journey you've been on over the last few years then.
So from my perspective, it's been a very, very interesting time over the last 5 years, and you certainly learn a lot about yourself and your strengths and some of your blind spots. And I think for everybody, we talk a lot about authenticity, don't we? And bringing your whole self to work and those sorts of expressions. I think it's more about not fighting against who you really are, because that is draining. So I know that I can be transparent to a fault. So if I'm not happy with you, you're going to know I'm not happy with you. If I'm disinterested and have stopped listening, it's written all over my face. So it's really, I have to watch that. And again, being honest with my team and hoping that they'll pull me up on it as well. And that's where the help and the support comes in. Also, it's having a bit of patience and seeing over time how the improvement comes and how the change comes, because you can't change culture overnight. You can't change people overnight. I know we could have a debate about whether you can ever change people or not, but it does take time, and so you have to have that bit of patience. And 5 years on, being able to look back at our business performance, our business improvement, the culture shift that we've had, you can take a step back and say, yes, we set out on a journey, and for sure we've course corrected as we've gone, but we've kept the faith and it's delivered.
It certainly looks that way to me. It's that purpose that you've set out with, that you went and got the data, you looked at the data, and then you built your strategy around that, and then you made it very personal. It's personal for you, it's personal for your leaders, it's personal for the teams. Really powerful stuff. So please, Jo, you're going to share something else.
I was, because as you were describing that, I was thinking, and one of the key things is you've got to find different ways for everybody to connect with what you want to do. So for me, the message and the connection for me is we will have a better business as a result of this. And that's great because that will resonate with some other people, but it won't resonate with everybody. So that's not the only rationale that you need to provide. You need to, as I say, allow everybody to find their way to connect with what you want to do.
That's very inclusive. Almost like it's the model of inclusion, isn't it? What is it that they need to connect and thrive? So thanks for that. So I was going to ask you, what would your 3 personal strategies would be for any of the leaders listening? Maybe they're leaders of new teams or been promoted, or indeed in senior positions, but with a growth mindset that says, what else can I do?
Being clear and consistent. Whether you are talking to your team about your business strategy, you're talking about inclusivity, whether you're talking about changes you want to make, whatever it is, being clear but being consistent. I think people do not want to see a flip-floppy leader. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't change your mind, but again, be clear about that. We said X, we've thought about it, we've changed our mind, it's now Y. Communication, biggest chunk of that is listening to people. Really find your roots to know what's really going on. I don't think anyone thinks they can actually sit in an ivory tower these days at surveying everything they see, but you really need to build your networks and find your roots. Don't rely on everything filtering up, but listening is the biggest part of that. But also, I would say that the other side of communication is that being open, being honest. You can't tell everybody in the organisation everything about the business all the time. They wouldn't want to know it, even if you could. But be open, be honest, because again, if you're not, you'll be found out. And I think being talking about the business in a way that you can get people to connect with it. Why should people follow you? Why are you inspiring them to get up every morning, come to work and deliver excellence? Why should they? And it's finding that way to make people passionate about the organisation, see its purpose, and understand what they are going to get out of it, because it is a two-way street.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest. We've been talking with Jo Gretton, CEO of Telent, and super exciting insights there, and all of them very practical. Thank you, Jo. Any last words to add before we close?
Just thank you very much for inviting me. It's lovely just to talk about people.
It's a privilege to have you as a guest, so thank you so much. And listeners, as you know, if you listen to us regularly, we will be taking all of Jo's fabulous strategies and unfiltered insights. We're going to put them into a takeaway tool that you can download. You can go to our website, which is www.inclusionlive.com, to access this. And we look forward to you listening in the future. Thank you very much, everyone.